I didn't plan to be there that long. It was supposed to be a quick favor, helping my friend's mom tidy up before she left for her weekend trip. But time has a way of slowing down around her. Around Elena. The house was quiet except for the faint hum of the ceiling fan and the rhythmic scrape of the mop across the floor. Afternoon light poured through the window, warm, slow-moving, dust motes floating like they had nowhere better to be. I was on my knees by the kitchen counter, wiping down a spot that didn't really need wiping, when her voice drifted behind me. "You missed a spot." Soft, teasing, but it landed somewhere deeper than a joke should. I turned. She was leaning against the doorway, a dish towel hanging loosely from her hand, her hair pulled back but not perfectly. A strand had fallen loose near her cheek. She smiled just enough to make me forget how to breathe for a second. "Oh, yeah?" I said, trying to sound casual. "Where?" She pointed, not to the counter, but somewhere a little higher. Closer to where her reflection lingered on the window pane. I caught it, the smallest streak of glass cleaner mist. But her eyes didn't leave mine long enough to convince me she really cared about the spot. I wiped it anyway. Slowly. "You're more thorough than my son ever was," she murmured. "He'd be done in 10 minutes. Maybe you didn't have the right motivation," I said before I could stop myself. Her smile faltered just enough to register. A second too long of silence. Then she turned back toward the sink. "Be careful saying things like that," she said, her tone gentler than her words. I could have left it there. Should have. But I didn't. She filled 2 glasses with water, handed me one. Her fingers brushed mine, light, but deliberate enough that neither of us pretended it didn't happen. "You've been helping me too much lately," she said after a moment. "You don't have to keep coming by just because he's busy." "I don't mind," I said. "It's nice here." Her laugh was quiet, not mocking, just surprised. "Nice? It's a half-empty house and an overwatered garden. Still nicer than my place," I said and meant it. She glanced at me then, really looked, not like an adult humoring a younger man, but like someone caught between recognition and restraint. I saw it in her eyes, the hesitation, the guilt that flickered before she looked away. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was heavier, full of words either of us could say without changing everything. I kept cleaning, because doing something with my hands made it easier not to think. She busied herself with rearranging the same stack of mail 3 times. We were both pretending. When I turned again, she was watching me. Her hands still on the counter, her lips parted just slightly, like she was about to speak but couldn't find the right start. "Elena," I said quietly. Her name came out before I decided to say it. And just like that, the air shifted, not louder, not darker, just aware. She blinked, almost startled. "You shouldn't." Before she could finish, the doorbell rang. Her eyes flicked toward the sound, then back to me. Something like panic, or maybe realization, passed between us. Neither of us moved right away. And in that breath of hesitation, standing in that too quiet kitchen, I knew nothing about us would stay the same after whoever was behind that door. It turned out to be a delivery man at the door, nothing dramatic, just a package she'd forgotten about. But something did change after that ring. The silence between us wasn't the same anymore. It wasn't comfortable or empty. It was waiting. Elena signed for the parcel, thanked the man, then stood there a moment too long, fingers resting on the doorframe. When she turned back to me, her voice was steady again, like nothing had happened. "You should go," she said softly. "It's getting late." But she didn't sound like she meant it. I hesitated, wiping my hands on the towel. "You always say that," I said, half smiling. "And you never listen," she replied, matching it. Her tone was light, but her eyes gave her away. There was something in them, tiredness, maybe. Or the memory of someone she used to be. I sat down on the edge of the kitchen chair, feeling bold enough to ask, "Can I ask you something?" She nodded, slow. "Were you always this careful?" Her brow furrowed. "Careful?" "Yeah." Like you're afraid to let anyone too close. She looked down, twisting the ring on her finger, a habit I'd noticed before. It wasn't a wedding ring, not anymore. Just silver, worn thin at the edges. I used to be the opposite, she said quietly. I thought love was something you could hold on to if you just tried hard enough. Turns out, holding too tight is how you break it. Her words sat in the air, heavier than either of us expected. I'm sorry, I murmured. Don't be. She gave a small, sad smile. You didn't do it. But she didn't mean me, not really. She meant her ex-husband, the one who left, or maybe the one she pushed away. Either way, there was a hollow in her voice that told me she'd spent years building walls to keep from feeling that again. I guess I just never learned that part, I said. She looked at me, really looked, and for a heartbeat I wondered if she saw her younger self in me. Maybe that's what scared her. Or maybe that's what drew her closer. You're too young to understand, she said, but it came out as a whisper, not a dismissal. I understand more than you think, I said, and the silence that followed said she knew it too. The evening light had gone amber, spilling over her face. She looked softer in that color, not older, just real. She moved to put the dish towel away, brushing past me. Her arm grazed mine. It should have meant nothing. But it didn't. We both froze. Her breath caught, and for a fraction of a second she didn't step back. Neither did I. Then she did, just half an inch, just enough to make it feel like distance again. I'll drive you home, she said, but her voice was quieter now. I didn't argue. I couldn't. As we walked toward the door, the light flickered against the window, and in her reflection beside mine, I saw something fragile. Two people standing too close to what they both knew they shouldn't want, but couldn't quite step away from. The drive home should have been quiet. It wasn't. Rain started halfway down the hill, soft at first, then steady enough to blur the world outside. The wipers moved in a rhythm that felt almost human, nervous, uncertain. Elena's hands were tight on the steering wheel, her gaze fixed straight ahead. I watched the way her knuckles whitened whenever we stopped at a light. You don't have to drive me every time, I said, trying to fill the silence. She gave a faint smile. Maybe I like the quiet. But it's not quiet, I said. Not between us. Her breath hitched, almost invisible, but I caught it. She didn't answer, and for a while, we just listened to the rain. When we pulled up outside my apartment, she didn't turn off the engine. Just stared through the windshield, watching the water slide down the glass. Your friend's coming home next week, she said suddenly. You'll probably see less of me. The words landed like a warning. Do you want that? I asked. Her eyes flicked to me, sharp but trembling. It doesn't matter what I want. But it does, I said, leaning a little closer. Because A car horn blared from behind us, snapping the moment in half. She startled, reaching for the gear shift. Go inside, she said quickly. Elena, please, Noah. Her voice cracked just slightly, and it made me stop. I nodded, stepped out into the rain. But when I closed the door, she didn't drive away. She just sat there, motionless, engine humming. I stood on the curb, soaked through, waiting for her to look back. She didn't. Until she did. Our eyes met through the wet glass, and something passed between us, something too raw to name. Then she drove off, taillights bleeding red through the rain. The next day, my phone buzzed. Mom says thanks for helping around the house. She really likes you, man. It was my friend Evan. I stared at the message too long, thumb hovering over the keyboard. There were 100 ways to answer. I chose none. Instead, I found myself at the cafe near campus, the one where Elena sometimes stopped for coffee after her yoga class. I told myself it was coincidence. It wasn't. And when she walked in, umbrella dripping, eyes finding mine instantly, I knew she hadn't believed her own goodbye either. She hesitated at the counter, then came over. You shouldn't be here, she said. I know. You really shouldn't. Then why did you come? Her lips parted, no answer. Just rainwater on her lashes, and something fierce in her silence. For a heartbeat, we stood too close, the smell of coffee and rain mixing between us. My hand almost lifted, to touch, to comfort, I don't even know. But before I could, the barista called out, "Elena? Your order's ready!" She stepped back, eyes breaking away, voice soft as she whispered, "This has to stop." And yet, as she turned to leave, her hand brushed mine, fleeting, trembling, enough to tell me it wouldn't. Days passed, but that touch, that fleeting graze of her hand, lived rent-free in my mind. Every night I replayed it. Every morning I told myself to forget. By the weekend, forgetting felt impossible. Evan was finally back in town, which meant pretending again, acting normal when nothing was. We were hanging out at his house, the same one I'd been cleaning not long ago, the same one where her voice had said, "You missed a spot." She wasn't supposed to be there. But halfway through a movie, I heard the sound of keys at the door. Elena walked in, hair still damp from the rain, wearing that same soft gray sweater that always slipped slightly off her shoulder. For a second, our eyes caught, a flicker of panic, of memory, then she looked away. "Didn't know you were back," she said to her son, forcing a smile. "Surprise?" He laughed. "Noah's been keeping me updated though, right, man?" "Yeah," I said, though my throat felt dry. Her glance at me was brief, almost professional. She poured herself tea, the clink of the spoon louder than it should have been. I tried not to watch her, failed miserably. Evan kept talking, plans, classes, random chatter. But my focus was on her hands, the way they trembled slightly when she set the cup down. When he left the room to take a call, the silence between us thickened. "You shouldn't be here right now," she said under her breath. "I came for him," I said quietly. "Not for you." We both knew it was a lie. Her jaw tightened. "You have to stop looking at me like that." "Like what?" "Like you know me." I swallowed hard. "Maybe I do." She stepped closer, not enough to be reckless, but enough that I could see the pulse in her throat. "You think this is simple? You think I don't feel?" She stopped herself. Turned away. I stood up. "Then say it." Her shoulders rose, then fell. "You're just a kid, Noah. Stop saying that. Evan is your friend, and you're not his possession." My voice cracked, sharper than I meant. That got her attention. She spun back, eyes glassy but fierce. "You don't understand what you're asking for." "I'm not asking," I said softly. "I'm just here." For a long moment neither of us spoke. The storm outside rumbled again, thunder rolling low and restless. She stared at me like she was weighing every rule she'd ever made for herself. Then Evan's voice echoed from the hallway. "Hey, Mom, where's the remote?" We both froze. She took a step back, her hand brushing the counter for balance. "Go," she whispered. "Please." I hesitated, wanting to say something, to do something, but her eyes were pleading, raw. So I left through the side door, heart pounding, rain hitting my face like punishment. From the window, I saw her watching me go. She didn't move, didn't wave. But her hand lifted just slightly, a half gesture, half confession, before she turned away. And I knew then, whatever happened next, either of us could keep pretending. I didn't see Elena for 2 weeks. I tried to convince myself that was for the best, that space would dull whatever was burning between us. It didn't. It only made it louder in my head. Then one evening my phone buzzed. "Evan. Bro, Mom's been weird lately. Keeps asking about you. You sure nothing's up?" My stomach twisted. I typed a dozen replies, jokes, denials, distractions, but sent none. That night I couldn't sleep. Around midnight I drove. Not to see her, I told myself. Just to think. But somehow, I ended up parked across from her house. The lights were on in the kitchen. She was there, sitting at the counter, head bowed over a letter. I knew I shouldn't go in. I went anyway. When she opened the door, surprise flickered, but not anger. Just exhaustion. "Noah," she whispered. You can't, I just need to talk, I said. Please. She hesitated, then stepped aside. The air inside felt heavy, like something had already happened. The letter was still on the counter, opened, crumpled. My name was in the first line. I froze. You wrote this? Her silence was answer enough. It wasn't long, but it said too much. She'd written about us, not in detail, but enough that anyone reading would know there was something. Something real. Something forbidden. Why would you? I started, but she cut in, trembling. I didn't send it. It wasn't meant for you. Then who, your friend? She said, voice breaking. I was writing to Evan. To tell him before he heard it from someone else. The room tilted. He knows? She shook her head quickly. No. But he almost did. I couldn't. A knock at the door interrupted her. Hard, urgent. We froze. Through the glass, I saw him, Evan, drenched from the rain, eyes wild. Elena. He called. Open the door. My heart stopped. She turned to me, panic written across her face. Go, she whispered. I didn't move. He already knows, doesn't he? Another knock, louder. Her eyes brimmed. I told him you were helping with repairs. He saw your car outside and... She couldn't finish. The knock turned to pounding. Mom, what's going on? Evan's voice cracked, raw and suspicious. She looked at me then, no time for words, only decision. Back door. Now. I wanted to say something, to stay, to fight. But I didn't. I slipped out the back, rain crashing down as his voice echoed through the house. From the driveway, I saw her through the window, pale, cornered, her hand pressed to her chest as she opened the door. Their voices rose, muffled but sharp. Her son's face fell into disbelief. And then, through the glass, I saw it, Evan holding the letter. The same one with my name on it. Elena's lips moved, pleading, breaking. I didn't wait to hear the rest. I just stood there in the rain, realizing what she'd done to protect me, and what it had just cost her. The rain hadn't stopped by morning. It hadn't stopped in me either. I spent the night driving, nowhere, everywhere. My phone buzzed again and again, calls from Evan, then silence, then one message from her. Please don't come. Not yet. But I did. By the time I reached her house, the storm had turned the driveway into a mirror of gray water. Her car was gone, but the kitchen light was on. She opened the door before I could knock. Her eyes were red, her voice quiet. You shouldn't be here. I had to make sure you're okay. I'm not, she said simply. He knows. Everything. My chest tightened. What did you tell him? The truth, she whispered. That it wasn't supposed to happen. That I was the one who should have stopped it. And what did he say? She swallowed hard. He's gone. He said he can't look at me the same way. For a moment, neither of us breathed. I wanted to say something comforting, but every word felt too small. Elena. I stepped closer, but she held up a hand. Don't, she said, but her voice shook. You don't understand what this means. His whole world just, what about our world? I said. Doesn't that mean anything? Her laugh came out broken. Our world isn't supposed to exist. I took another step. Then why did you write that letter? She looked at me, finally, fully, eyes wet and defiant. Because I loved you. Because I still do. And that's exactly why this has to end. The words hit harder than any slap could have. You're choosing fear, I said quietly. I'm choosing him, she replied, but her lip trembled. I'm choosing to not ruin what's left of my family. For a long, unbearable moment, I just stared at her. The woman who had made me feel seen, wanted, understood, now standing there, dismantling everything we'd built with one trembling confession. But beneath all that pain, I saw something else, a kind of mercy. She was breaking herself to protect me. I stepped forward anyway. My hand brushed her cheek, light as breath. She didn't pull away. You can't pretend this didn't happen, I whispered. I won't, she said. But I can't keep it either. Her tears met my thumb, warm against the cold of my skin. The space between us felt like the edge of a cliff, one step closer, and we'd fall. For a second, I thought she'd let us. Her eyes softened, her hand rose to my chest, and then stopped. Noah, she breathed. Please, don't make me do this again. I nodded but didn't move. I wanted to memorize her, the tired hope in her eyes, the quiet ache in her voice. Then she stepped back. 1, 2, enough to close the door if she needed to. I'll be fine, she said, though it sounded like she was trying to convince herself. I managed a faint smile. You missed a spot, I murmured. Her laugh, shaky, tearful, real, broke through the silence. For a second, we were us again. Then the door closed. But through the glass, I saw her hand linger there, against the wood, like she wanted to stay just a second longer. It's strange, the things that stay with you. Not the big moments, not the shouting, not the heartbreak. It's the small things that echo longest. For me, it was the sound of that door clicking shut. It's been 6 months. Evan and I still talk sometimes. Not about that night, not about her, just surface stuff. Enough to convince ourselves we're fine. But every so often, there's a pause in his voice, a silence we both pretend not to notice. Elena moved. Somewhere quieter, a few towns over. She told him she needed a reset. He believed her. Maybe she did too. I see her sometimes, though, in the corner of a cafe that looks like the one she used to go to, or in the flash of silver jewelry on someone's wrist. Always almost her. Never quite. I thought time would fix it. But love, real love, doesn't fade so neatly. It changes shape. It softens. It stops demanding. It just stays. Sometimes I drive by her old house. It's empty now. The windows are bare. But I swear I can still hear her voice when I pass, teasing, warm. You missed a spot. The first time I went back inside, Evan had left the door open while packing boxes. I found something wedged behind the counter. A folded piece of paper, worn from time. Her handwriting. It wasn't the letter she wrote before. It was something else. Just one line. Don't regret what was real. I sat there on the cold tile for a long time, reading those 5 words until they blurred. I think that's when I finally understood her. She wasn't running from love. She was protecting what little of it could survive in the world she had left. And me? I stopped waiting for her shadow to show up in someone else's light. I still carry her with me, though, not as something tragic, but as proof that sometimes, 2 people can meet at the wrong time and still change each other forever. Because love isn't always about keeping someone. Sometimes it's about letting them stay inside you quietly, even when they're gone. A few weeks ago, I got a message from an unknown number. Just 3 words. I saw you. No name. No context. But I knew. And somehow, that was enough. I smiled, slipped my phone into my pocket, and looked out at the fading light, warm, gentle, familiar. The kind of light that used to linger on her face. Maybe we'll meet again someday. Maybe not. But if we do, I'll probably still notice the same thing. The way she brushes a stray strand of hair behind her ear, the way she pretends not to smile when I make her laugh. And I'll probably still tease her. Just once. Softly. You missed a spot.